Hi,
Hello there. How are you?
how are you?
I'm good.
Good, I'm glad.
I well, I other than four more students that they're going to try to get in today, I think they get last night. It wasn't too late, maybe 6 or 7. They so they said they had them all enrolled except for 4, and
Okay.
they were working on those 4. Now I don't know how many of those are yours. You've got 16 right now, I think it is.
The last time I looked, I still had 11, so those must have gone in last night.
Yeah, they went in last night. She was working last night. And so Danny had 21 and Kathy had 21. And that's really all I'm expecting for them.
That's
And
a
then
lot.
you've got 16.
That's a lot.
And there's 4 more coming for somebody.
Okay.
So I think so that's 42 and 16 is 58 and 4 is 62. I believe I said we'd end up with 60.
You did. That's exactly what you said.
Well, I mean, it's easy. I can do math. I mean, I take the first number on the spreadsheet, I know which is completely a phantom number. and then the second number is the ones that supposedly have actually applied and committed. I take that one and multiply it by 0.7, which is the 30% fudge factor that they always put in. And that tells you how many you're going to get. And it's awfully close to half of the first number they give you. So the first number they gave us is 119. Well, again, I can do math. Half of that's 60.
59 and a half.
And sometimes we get half wits. I know that too. But
Yes.
that would be 60. Including
Well,
myself.
look what I got today from one of my teachers. A diet
cherry sun drop. Oh, that's my second favorite. Now,
you can
my
only
first
get these in Gastonia.
as you can see from right here, my first favorite is regular diet sun drop.
She says you can only get these in Gastonia.
You can. They're only in Gastonia. They don't even have them in they don't even have them in Bowling Springs.
Yeah. So anyway, she was sweet enough to bring me one.
Yeah, you can get them there because of the cheer wine factory there in Gastonia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, no, I get one during all the breaks.
Mm-hmm.
When the cafeteria is closed, we go to Hamrick's. You know, the country store over there going toward Cliffside, out of the backside of Bowling Springs, and they've got a diner.
Uh-huh.
You recognize that? No.
And I had to get me one of the, what I have for lunch. Dr. Kennedy, are you there?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Hope you are.
I am. Hold on just a second. We're going to try to get some video going here so you can see our friends.
I see Sean.
Everyone's in one room.
Hold on. They can't see you. I've got to put my video,
Well,
on the big
That's
screen.
okay.
They said that's it. You got it. That's where
We're
we
good
need
with
to
that.
Hold on just a sec. I got to. Unfortunately, we have the. I am not a digital native. Hold on just a second. Oh, nice break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Check out. I'm getting there, friends. Hold on. Then you got to go back up here. You're doing.
Don't forget this.
All right. Now they see Dr. Lamb's smiling face.
More importantly, I hope you can see Dr. Hamilton, the brains of the outfit.
Hold on, let me get you guys
Me.
on the big picture there. So, oops. There we go. So we've got some folks in person here.
I see that.
And so, you know, Sean and Camille.
I do, both. I saw Camille over there as well.
Sorry. That's me. I'm sorry.
All right, let's try this again.
Good.
All right, I think that's there. All right. Hello, Dr. Hamilton. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi, it's my pleasure. Nice to meet you.
So we will go around the room, and so just for some history of things, 2 years ago we had the opportunity to get hooked up actually through Dr. Sidney Brown. Dr. Brown and I are college classmates, and so when I had the opportunity to come to Thomasville City Schools as assistant superintendent, one of my jobs was to help provide professional development for our APs. And so we had a number of folks, and I'd reached out to Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown hooked me up with Dr. Lamb. And so 2 years ago during the COVID year, we were fortunate enough to have a number of folks at Gardner-Webb provide us with some PD. And then last year got a little screwy. We had a lot of transition with our APs and some things like that. So we're happy to be back together this year. And of course, we've got some proud Gardner-Webb graduates as part of it. And then since that time, I am no longer the assistant superintendent. I'm now the superintendent. And so I am going to hand off the supervision of and we call this our APEX program, which is our AP Executive Development. And, you know, we're aligned to the North Carolina Executive Standards. That's where that comes from. And so the topics that you all are doing, and we appreciate you doing, are all from the request either of these folks or their principals of things that they've done here. So I was just sharing that we have an outstanding group of assistant principals, but they're all either in their first or second year. But you would never know it if you ever spent any time with them in the school. So I'm going to let folks go around the room and introduce themselves so that you know who you've got in the room, Dr. Hamilton. Then we will turn it over to you and let you go. So, Brooke, you want to start?
Hello, I'm Brooke Sumner, and I'm at Thomasville Primary, and this is, I think, my third week in the job. So I'm definitely have a lot to learn. I'm excited.
Welcome, Brooke.
Hi, I'm Shamika Jones. I'm also at Thomasville Primary School, and this is probably well, if she's 3 weeks, I'm 2.5. And so I'm happy to be here.
And I'm
Welcome.
Sean Treacle. I'm at the high school. I've been there a year and a few months.
Good to see you again, Sean. I met Sean at High Point Central, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Up on the second floor.
Yep, and right down the hall was Brooke working.
Yes. Up on the second floor of the old building. And when I walked down the hall, the floors creaked. Yeah, kind of like my experience at Central High School in Rutherford. Same era of building. But it's good to see you again, Sean. I'm so proud to have you with us.
And I'm Camille Hicks. I am also at the high school, and this is, I guess, Sean and I have been there probably about the same amount of time. I beat him by a couple of months. I started in August of last year. So I'm happy to be
Good to
here.
see you again as well, Camille. Again, I had nothing to do with them being here, but I'm still proud anyway.
And then I'm going to turn over here so that you can see.
So I have them all week. This is my my fourth day at Thomasville School, but I'm the Chief Administrative Services Officer. So I'm going to step in for Dr. Kennedy and help oversee this program. So I will be working with that.
Well, thank you. We're so thankful to be here and look forward to working with you on these. If y'all get together, I may slip down to Thomasville and see y'all before this is over with. What I was kind of hoping is we could, at the last time, that time in May, maybe we could get together and just do some kind of a roundtable. But be thinking about that. Don't let me interject myself. If y'all will be tired of me before then. But I'm hoping.
No, I think that would be great. And you've seen me before, but I'm just going to say,
yes,
here I am, Dr. Hamilton. You've seen me before. Y'all don't want to see me. One bald man on camera is enough.
I was going to say we went to the same barber. Just a slightly younger and better looking, smaller version of me.
Now, what? You're the younger version. That's what you said, right?
No, I wish I was the younger version. I'm the oldest mule in the barn, and mules being kind. Somebody sent me a picture the other day, me and Steve Laws. It's supposed to be us. It was two jackasses, a big one and a little one. And I thought, well, that's about the most appropriate thing I've gotten lately.
And so we have Shay and Shay remotely, Shay Mosley and Shay Cullop. I know Shay Cullop said that she has no voice and and she said that we didn't want to see the mess that she was. And so I know Shay Mosley is sick as well. So we're going to say hi. And if you want to say hi, that's fine. Or if you just want to say hi in the chat, that's fine too. But I appreciate you guys joining, even though you are under the weather.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, Mosley, there you go.
Good morning.
All right.
All right. So Dr. Hamilton, please take it away.
I will. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for letting us be with you today. And congratulations for all of you.
Uh-oh, we froze.
There we go. Okay, now we're going to start over. So, love Zoom. I wish we were face to face.
I sent everybody hopefully you got the email this morning with the PowerPoint that Dr. Hamilton is doing. I had some of your addresses. I'm not sure I had them all. The one that she's going to now, but hopefully.
I'll make sure they get it, Dr. Lamb, while
Thank you.
Dr. Dr. Hampton's freezing when she tries to share.
So I can't share my screen without it knocking me out, apparently. So that's where we are. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead and stop your share, and I'll share mine. I'm loaded and ready to go.
That sounds great. Thank you. I tried 2 times and both times it knocked me out. So thanks.
Okay.
Welcome. This is an interesting thing. So I am Robin Hamilton, and I am the proud principal of Masonboro Elementary School in Wilmington, North Carolina. I have, this school was named Parsley Elementary School until 2 years ago, and the district changed the name of the school. This is my 16th year as principal at Masonboro. We are not a Title I school. I was the principal and assistant principal at another school in New Hanover, Sunset Park, which is a Title I school, for 6 years. And I worked in human resources for 4 years. Back in the days, Dr. Kennedy, when Barbara, and I can't think of her last name for anything right now, but she was your HR person.
Barbara Armstrong.
Barbara Armstrong, yes, because Barbara and I worked together on the paint committee. So yes, Barbara Armstrong, hope she's doing well. So
She is retired. Yes,
Oh,
she is retired.
good for
Lived
her.
a good life.
Good for her. So I've lived in Wilmington for 25 years, and I'm originally from Shelby, so that's not too far from where you are. And had some family in Thomasville, and just hired a teacher from Thomasville this year, Amanda Cassetta. So she's with me now, if y'all happen to know Amanda. and she and her family moved here. And so I did get my undergraduate and graduate degree in school administration from Gardner-Webb University, and then got my doctorate degree from East Carolina University back in 2013. So it is a pleasure to be with you. I don't know that I know Dr. Lamb often stays at the Holiday Inn Express, and he always, nobody ever gets tired of hearing Dr. Lamb, right? But not the same for me. So Dr. Lamb, you jump in. Dr. Kennedy, you jump in, and we're going to get going. So we're going to talk about the evaluation process for teachers and how pivotal that process is, and different ways in which we can evaluate, observe, and give growth feedback to teachers to help them be the very best that they can be. Of course, we are a school. Dr. Lamb will tell you that at Jones Sausage, they make sausage. In schools, we are here to help children learn and grow and be the very best that they can be. So for that to happen, the children have to have skillful teachers who have the capacity to be able to do that. And to have a skillful teacher, teachers have to have a skillful administrator who can help them grow. I tell my staff all the time, I don't ever want to reach my pinnacle, because when you reach your pinnacle, there's one way to go, and that's down. And I don't want to go down. So I always want to grow and learn. And if I don't constantly get feedback and do things to professionally develop myself, then I'm not going to grow and learn. And it's important to me that I do that. Teacher feedback, and I'm going to assume you all know about effect sizes. So teacher feedback has a 1.13 effect size on student learning. The same can be said for administrative feedback to teachers. Administrators have to give teachers specific and constructive feedback on things that they can do to improve their craft, to help children be able to learn and grow. And when we can do that, and we can provide that skillful feedback to teachers through observations and evaluations, we can increase individual teacher efficacy and collective teacher efficacy. And we all know that John Hattie says that collective teacher efficacy has the highest impact on student achievement and learning. So in the Wallace report, they say that just a 1 standard deviation increase in principal or assistant principal, I'm going to use these terms interchangeably for you, effectiveness can increase students' achievement by as much as 2.9 months of learning for math and 2.7 months of learning a year for reading. That's enormous. So to go from an ineffective principal to an effective principal can have that much of an impact on student learning. I also know that through the Wallace report, they say that the biggest impact on student learning is the teacher. But now they have a new report out that says that the principal or assistant principal impact through the feedback, observation, and evaluation process can actually have a bigger impact on student learning than the teacher, because for the teachers, they just have the children in their room, where we, as the school leaders, our impact is across every single child in the school. So we have a big responsibility. It's a very big role and a very important role in the lives of our children and our future society for what we can do to help them grow and be where they need to be. Mike Rutherford, who owns Rutherford Learning Group, who has the 23 Teaching Talents book, and many of you may have seen him like at Papa conferences or things like that, says that the very best teachers want to be a part of a talented team. They want to work at a school that is well led, where administrators know good teaching and learning, and they can talk to their teachers about good teaching and learning. And so that's really important. And how do you know when you see good teaching and learning, and how do you talk to your teachers about teaching and learning? Well, you do that through the evaluation process for sure. So it's really hard to imagine a bigger impact on student learning than the impact that a skillful administrator can have in providing feedback to teachers. Now, we know that we have the NECES process for the formal evaluation of our teachers. And sometimes that can feel very daunting, like this is just one more thing I have to check off. And there are also other kinds of observations and feedback that we can utilize to be able to stay engaged with the learning that's going on in our school and providing teachers with the opportunity to be able to increase their skill in that area. And we already know how important that role is because we have the biggest impact on student learning. So hopefully we can talk about some things today that can help us be that, so that can help us use the evaluation and observation component of our jobs to be that one standard deviation difference that will help our students grow and be the best they can be. My husband always says, Robin, we can't do anything 1,000 times better than someone else, but we can do 1,000 things 1% better. And that's called the aggregation of marginal gains. And you can look that up. And we talk about that at my school all the time, the aggregation of marginal gains, doing 1,000 things 1% better. So try to make your observations and evaluations and skillful feedback to teachers that thing that you do that's 1% better, because you know, practiced every day and routinely and in a habit, that that's going to have a huge impact on teaching and learning in your school. Mike Rutherford also says that when a teacher gets quality feedback, they become much more skillful with their craft much faster. In fact, he says with quality feedback that rate of improvement is 2.5 times a normal rate of improvement. So giving students, and from teachers giving students quality feedback, and from us giving teachers quality feedback that is growth oriented is very, very powerful. So before we move on, I was going to have you type in the chat, but I don't think we can do that. I want you to just talk to the person next to you for about 10 seconds about what does the word effectiveness mean? Can anybody unmute and give me some ideas?
You get the results you want when you're effective.
So desired results.
I think working smart.
Working smart.
Impact.
What was that?
Impact.
Impact. Oh. So we've talked about, thank you all for that. We talked about.
Sean had one thing too, Dr. Hampton, before you go. I know it.
Thank
I
you.
was just gonna say, I think of being deliberate. with
Deliberate
And being efficient with it.
and efficient. All right, thank you. So when we talk about effectiveness, we look at our system, our state system for observing teachers is the NC Educator Effectiveness System. So how effective are our teachers? Right there, how effective are our teachers? And this is the tool we use to monitor effectiveness. And then let's reflect back on ourselves for our continued growth about how effective we are in helping our teachers be effective. So think about it in the terms of the words you said. Are our educators the desired educators that we want? Are our educators getting the results that we want? What results do we want? I can tell you right now, every morning during the moment of silence, the results I pray for during my moment of silence every day is that every child in this building is proficient or above proficient, and that every year our EVOS growth comes back greater than 20. Now, that one hadn't happened yet, but when it does, I'm retiring because I'm not going to press my luck more than 1 year. But that's what I want every single day, is that every child grows as much as they can, because I can't, being 90% proficient, 95% proficient, that's not okay with me. I can't walk around this building and choose 5 or 10% of the children that I can say, oh, it's okay, you don't have to be proficient. I can't do that, because I'm here to help every one of them be proficient. And so who gets those desired results? Who's working smart? Let's call working smart collective efficacy. Which of our educators are doing that? What kind of impact are our educators having on our students? How deliberate are we being with our teaching and learning? How efficient or effective are we being with our teaching and learning? How deliberate are we as administrators being with monitoring that teaching and learning? How deliberate are we as educators being with providing growth-oriented, skillful feedback to our teachers? So thanks for those great words. I didn't know how that was going to turn out, but that worked out good. So we have other ways besides the North Carolina effectiveness system that we can give feedback through walkthroughs with written feedback, walkthroughs with brief verbal feedback, walkthroughs without written feedback, cross grade level subject area walkthroughs, and guided peer observations. And there may be, I'm not saying this is not an exhaustive list. These are just the ones we're going to look at today. All right, Dr. Lamb, we can go to slide 3. Thank you. So let's first of all look at the North Carolina Educator Effectiveness System that we know as NECES. Your teachers can be on multiple kinds of plans: comprehensive, standard, abbreviated, and I'm sure your central office helps you know which plan your teachers need to be on. Of course, anytime that you have someone that you really have concerns about, they don't need to be on an abbreviated plan. They need to be on that standard or comprehensive plan. Within each of these plans, we have 5 standards: leadership, respectful environment for diverse students, knowing your content, facilitating learning, and being a reflective practitioner. You should be able to spout those off without having to think about them, so that when you're in classrooms and you're seeing things and you're hearing things, your mind can automatically start connecting to, hey, that teacher demonstrated leadership by whatever. So know those standards. And of course, in those standards, there are also elements underneath each of the standards. Read the descriptions in there. Just take some time. Read the descriptions. Read the descriptions in the elements and the standards in there. Work together as your PLC group. You're very fortunate that your district is providing this opportunity for you to have these times to work together, building your individual and collective efficacy as a group of assistant principals, and also building that camaraderie so that you know that you have one another, that you can call on each other for support and help. These are lonely jobs. So you need somebody that you can depend on and call and help. So I also would say to you that anytime, like when you get together with your group and you're working on your skill as an evaluator, an observer through the NECES system, bring some positive exemplars of some things that you've seen. Give each other some ideas of some things. So when you build your well house of all that, then that provides you the opportunity to be able to go back and help your teachers with theirs as well, and helping them know how to grow and develop. I would say to you, especially those of you who are new, please do inter-rater reliability observations with your principal. It is very important that teachers in a school know what their united front of an administrative team is looking for, what they expect, how high their standards are, and what they want. It is very frustrating to teachers to have a principal walk in and give them these areas of concern, and then the next day or the next whenever, the assistant principal comes in and they're all of a sudden distinguished in the very same area and they haven't changed their practice at all. So make sure that you are on the same page with your principal. Go in, do observations together. Meet with your principal, especially when you're brand new, and say, hey, let's look at this observation. What do you think about this? How do you think, what should I add to this? Just, you need to be on the same page with your administrator. I had a PE teacher years ago at another school, and he was shared with another school. So he had half the week at my school, half the week at another school. He did not get the most glowing of observations from me, but he would go to the other school and get glowing observations. And so I finally said to him, if you would just be the PE teacher here, that you are there. And he said, I am. I'm the very same both places. So that had to have been very frustrating for him. I know it was frustrating for me. But so these are the things that you really need to think about. Like, what is that standard that you're being measured against, and how is that standard being interpreted by the evaluators. So use everything that is there for you to become knowledgeable. There are a plethora of resources on the DPI website that you can go to. Talk through these things with your teachers so that they have an understanding of it, so that they know what you're looking for. Dr. Lamb, we can go on to the next slide, I think. So when we're having our observations, you need to get those scheduled. It is very important to get those scheduled and spaced out between the administrative team. And of course, if you have someone on a comprehensive plan, they do have to have a peer observer as well. Those should be spaced out. I can't tell you how many times I get teachers from other places, and maybe they didn't even have all their observations, or they had them all in May. That does not help a teacher be able to use what you're saying to them and make any changes to their practice if necessary. And if it's something really, really bad, then those children went all year without the teacher being able to make any change to their practice. So that really does harm children when we don't really utilize this process for what it's there to be utilized for. So make a schedule, and I'll show you in a few minutes an example of a schedule I have. And put it on your calendar and stick to that schedule. And I will tell you that on we use Google in our district. I don't know what you all use, but on my Google Calendar, I have one that I just call Robin's schedule. That's it. And I have on my calendar every day. Right now, they know that I'm doing this with Thomasville City Schools. So they're not going to bother me unless we have a tornado or earthquake or, something. They're not going to come in here. But they know also I have all my observations on there. So it'll say, I'm going to be in Miss such and such's room from 7:50 until 9:30. They know I'm in there observing. Now that whole thing's not the observation, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Or it might be. But they don't bother me. They also know that these are probably oftentimes unannounced observations. So my team in my office, they're the only ones that have access to Robin's schedule. They do not tell the teachers, oh, I see Robin's coming to observe you next week. They keep all that confidential. Again, I've been here for a long time, so that always helps as well. That longevity piece helps with the trust and everything, and I don't have a big turnover, so all that helps. But that lets the staff know where you are. Another thing I'll just throw in, which really has nothing to do with observations, but to sort of make time for all that, if someone calls, unless my secretary really can tell that it's like urgent, like if it's the superintendent and it's urgent, she's probably going to interrupt me. But she tells parents or whomever calls, Dr. Hamilton is in the building monitoring instruction. I'll be happy to take a message. So in other words, the most important thing to Dr. Hamilton is the instruction of the children in this building. And she is not going to listen to you fuss because you're mad at the deputy this morning that he didn't let you turn left at the moment you wanted to turn left, or whatever the situation is. She'll be happy to call you back, but right now she's monitoring instruction, and that's very important to her, and I'm not going to interrupt her. And they know. So it works out good. So schedule your observations. Have them spaced out. It's not fair to a teacher to get an observation on top of one on top of another. Have those spaced out. Complete the cycle early enough for the teacher to make changes to instruction if needed. The post-conference has to occur within 10 days of the observation. Now that's a part of the requirements from the state. I would say to you, ideally the same day. How would we feel if we realized that a teacher was waiting 10 days to give feedback to a child about work? We wouldn't like that. And really and truly, if you miss the 24 to 48 hour window of opportunity, all that's sort of forgotten, and it's a little too late. So that timeliness of that feedback is pivotal. So when I said to you a little while ago about I'll be in the room for a long time, I will. And again, I'm old. I've been here a long time. That helps. And I was telling Dr. Lamb this yesterday. I went into a classroom yesterday at 7:50. Our bell rings at 7:50. The teacher knew I was coming to observe. And I stayed in there till about 10 after 9. Now I stopped my formal observation at 8:23. But I stayed in there and continued to look at the children's work to see what happened after. And then I just sat down and I typed up the observation in Nieces before I left the room at 9:10. I was still in there. It still had meaning to me. I was still enveloped in what was going on in the classroom. Nothing else had distracted me from what I had seen or what my thoughts were about the lesson. And so the teacher, this particular teacher, her planning period is at 9:35. So before I left the room, I went ahead and shared the observation with her. And then at 9:35, she came to my office and we post-conferenced. Now, this is a teacher who has years of experience, even though she's only been here 2 years. And she's always so nervous every time I go in there. And can you imagine if I had waited for 10 days to give her feedback? Her anxiety would have been out the roof. All she would have been doing was worried about what I saw that I didn't like or whatever else. And that would have distracted her from her business of being focused on the children and making their learning her top priority, because she would have been worried about me and what I thought. So I took all that off the table and she didn't have to worry about it anymore. And of course, she went back to her room after our 9:35 conference, relieved, and she was fine, and she is still on things today. It always amazes me too when I get teachers and they say the only time they ever see their principals is during their formal observations. That is amazing to me too. And I've added on here face-to-face pre and post conferences and face-to-face PDP meetings, because that's another amazing thing to me, is that I'll have people say, oh, my walkie-talkie, sorry. I'll have people say, I've never had a pre-conference before. Well, you know, on the first standard and the first comprehensive, you must have a pre-conference, and there is a place on there for you to sign that you've had that. And then some people also say to me, I've never sat down with someone and had a post-conference. You sit down, have a post-conference, talk to people, talk about what's good, talk about what could be improved. Have that conversation. Just put it out there. Let them come up with what they think. You might say, hey, that was great. I really liked how you whatever. And you just be quiet for a minute, and they're going to feel that uncomfortable silence. And they may start telling you, oh yeah, well, it was okay, but I was really thinking that next time. They may sit there and process something that they could do better themselves that you hadn't even thought of. So give them that opportunity to have that face-to-face with you, that one-on-one. We've had several people in our district office in the HR seat over the last couple of years. And one of them called me while we were working remotely to ask about a former employee. And before we hung up, and I didn't know the man, I don't think I ever even met this HR guy face-to-face. Before we hung up, he said, well, thank you for talking to me. Is there anything else you would like to tell me or that you think I need to know? I'd never had anyone ask that. So now I try to implement that when I'm meeting with teachers in post conferences or whatever else. Thank you for meeting with me. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me or that you think I need to know? You wouldn't believe what you find out. Things that you do need to know that you wouldn't have known had you not given them that time, your time, and made them feel important and valued by having a conversation with them. Same thing for PDP meetings. Have those meetings. Sit down. Give your folks time. On average, people get 18 seconds a day of FaceTime with an administrator. 18 seconds. These folks are valuable to us. They're important to us. They're the ones in the classrooms right now doing the work with those precious children that are the most important things to us. So let's make sure that we are giving our staff time, and through this evaluation process is one way that we can do that. So getting off my soapbox and back to my slide here, You'll notice I took a little snip on the left down there. Not all of the standards and elements have these, but some of the standards and elements have little light bulbs next to them, you'll notice. And you can click on those light bulbs. That's not going to be interactive on the slide, but you can click on those light bulbs and they'll give you professional development training opportunities where you and or the teachers can get CEU credits, and it's professional development and training that aligns with that standard or with that element. So those are good little resources for you as well when you're trying to help develop teachers. And also just from your NECES site on the right down at the bottom on the slide where it says home base, you'll see professional development. You can click on there and there is professional development that is aligned with the administrative standards and also with the teacher standards. So you can go through there and some of them have that hard to get digital learning credit on there. So all of that is a really, really good resource for you. But especially as a new person, I'll just go back and say, make sure that it's scheduled, it's spaced out, that you're giving that timely feedback, and that you are doing those inter-rater reliability observations with your principal so that teachers are getting a consistent message of this is what we expect, this is what we're looking for, these are our standards in these buildings. All right, Dr. Lamb, I'm ready for slide 5. So back to scheduling on slide 5. Now this is a snip that I took.
Dr. Hamilton, we have a question in the room.
Sure.
I have a quick question for you. Those light bulbs, I didn't know those existed. Can the teachers access those as well?
That's a great question. I don't know if they're on the teacher ones or not, but you can assign the PD to the teacher. You can I think it's called recommend. You can go in there and recommend it to the teacher or to a group of teachers. It will let you assign that PD to the teachers.
Thank you.
I would assume that the teachers have access to that as well, especially under the professional development tab. Thanks for asking. So this is just a snip from mine from this year. Now I cut some of it off. I cut off the names, of course, because I knew this would be recorded. So what you can't see over the left are names. And then just for my own knowledge, I keep up with their employment contracts. Are they career? Do they have tenure? Because not many people have tenure anymore. And then their license status, and then what year they are at my school. And then I keep up with the next column is what are they on this year? Are they on abbreviated, comprehensive, whatever? Now, let me tell you that when I start with this chart at the beginning of the year, none of the boxes are colored in. The names, the employment contract, and the evaluation thing that they're on right now, abbreviated, comprehensive, or standard, is in blue because that lets me know that they did their annual orientation. So that they're blue, they did that. And then you see that we have spaced out between my assistant principal and myself. We have spaced out our observations for each teacher. We have the September, October, November, December, January, and February. So really and truly, most of our formal observations are done by December. Now, those are also not colored in. So when we schedule one, like you see, my name is in pink. When we schedule one, we make it pink. That way we know, hey, we've got this scheduled. So you can see on the 4th line down, I need to have, Ms. Hart is a teacher here. She's going to be a peer observer. So I need to let Ms. Hart know, hey, would you please observe this BT3? And I'll make her name pink when I do that. Now, when I go observe the teacher, who you see that my name is pink right there. So when I go observe her, I'm going to turn that to yellow. So that says to me, caution, you're on your 10-day timeline. Hopefully, I'm going to have that done within a day or 2 days. But hey, you're on your 10-day timeline now. And then when we have post-conference with the person, we make it green. So on the very top line, my assistant principal is Ms. Ryan. So when hers went green for that top person, then I knew, hey, the first one's done. I'm able to go in and go ahead and schedule the person's next one. Same thing for BOI PDP. When I scheduled them, they were pink. And then when I held their PDP conference with them, I went in and changed that to blue. Now you see, I have not, when I made this snip, I had not yet made any MOY PDP schedules. I have some now, but I made this snip earlier. So that's how I keep up with that. And then I also just keep up with their license renewal year on the other end, just because they don't ever know when their license renews. So I just keep up with that for them over there. And every year I just go in and change, like the ones for 2023 this year, I'll go in and change it to 2028 at the end of this year. So that's one way that my assistant principal and I manage what's going on. Where have we been for our NECES observations? All right, Dr. Lamb, we can go to the next slide. So this is another snip.
Dr. Hamilton,
Yes.
while you're transitioning, let me ask a question. It's something I used to do when I was a principal. When you're scheduling, now obviously for doing posts and pre's probably too, but definitely post, you'll want to do that. But for things like PDP appointments for BOY and MOY and that kind of stuff, do you let teachers schedule that? Does someone keep your calendar? How do you do that? But because there is a feature that I used to use in Google Calendar to set up appointments, and I would block off times and then let the teachers use that appointment feature in Google Calendar.
That's exactly what I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'll be happy to share that with you guys if you don't know how to use the appointment settings in Google Calendar.
That's exactly what I do.
Block off time and let teachers pick their times. Okay, thank you.
You take your vacant times and then they fill them in. Yep, perfect. Thank you for mentioning that. So here's something else that we use here. Now, this is just, again, a snip from September, October. This is, and you see I have 2 Septembers because sometimes you might have 3 or 4 for the month across there. It just depends. But this just really is another way for us to keep up. So you see that RH, that's me. I did BOY PDPs, and of course the teachers' names would be over on the left. WT means a walkthrough. I did a walkthrough and I gave them feedback. I did a True North Logic. I just put T and L for NECES because that's faster. So that's what I did, a True North Logic, and you can just see. So I can very quickly
Showing
see.
your age there, Dr. Hamilton.
I know.
These folks have no idea what True North Logic is.
It's NECES. I just, I started doing that years ago and just never changed. It's only 3 letters. It's faster. And so, yeah, so we just go in and we put like walkthroughs, True North Logic, whatever. And it's a huge document, if you can imagine, in Google Sheets. But we just keep up with it. And then we can quickly look mid-month if a teacher has not gotten some kind of face-to-face feedback from us, we know where we need to be going. Whether it's NECES, whether it's a walkthrough of some kind or something else, we know where we need to be going. That one over there that says EVOS, that's because I pulled a teacher in and did some one-on-one conversation when we immediately after we got our EVOS back. So that was some feedback about EVOS growth right there. So also on this document, this is the overview page. But so going to the next slide, Dr. Lamb. So on the same document, on the same document, and I just snipped the top line. I have a tab for every single teacher on the same document. And this is the top line of that. So date observer, time class. This came from the book Leverage Leadership. So if, for instance, I go in, so this morning I was in a 3rd grade classroom and the teacher was telling the children about quadrilaterals, and she said to them, the root of this word is quad. That means 4. So anytime you see quad in anything, that means everybody said 4. So I came back and gave her feedback about implementing her letters training, about word parts, Latin roots, all that into her lesson. So I just sent an email about that. So I have a file in my email for every teacher. And so I put on the last sheet we just looked at, I put that I gave her walkthrough feedback, but I slipped that into her email file. So when I do her summative at the end of the year, I go back and look through all the emails that I have in her email file. And I'll remember at the end of the year that she was implementing her letters training by talking about Latin roots and things and the observation. So I'll remember that. But let's just say that it's something that I don't have an email for, or if it's something that I'm really working with someone on, I will put it on the lines underneath here. So what did I see? Good, bad, or ugly? What do I want them to work on? So that goes under the the latest key lever to look for to focus. I want you to start your instruction at 7:55. That's what I want you to do. So then I'll go back and I'll be in there at 7:54. Did they start at 7:55? I can go back to evidence of change. Did they make change? Are they doing it now? So that sort of keeps me a running record of what I'm working with folks on just outside of the NECES process. And are they making change towards that goal? Right now, I have someone that's supposed to be teaching a certain thing at 11:15 every day, and for the last 2 days, I haven't seen that. So I'm going back today at 11:15, and we'll see how that works out. So these are just different ways that I keep up with things. You know, just you have to have different ways to do things. So Dr. Lamb, we can go on to slide 8. So in slide 8, besides the formal NECES process that provides us with the opportunity to give meaningful feedback to teachers, we also can do that through walkthroughs. We can have written feedback, verbal, without written feedback. We can have cross-grade level subject area and guided peer observations. So these can oftentimes even be more powerful than the NECES simply because it's not as overwhelming. So if you're on a comprehensive of the NECES, you have all those standards and all those elements, that's a lot. But these walkthroughs can be one thing. And sometimes we can get, and we're going to talk about this as a pitfall later, but sometimes we can just have so many things at one time that it just all gets mushed up in our mind, and then we really don't remember anything. So when we can go through and look at this feedback of just the informal walkthroughs, then we're able to point out one thing that really sticks with them, one thing that you might want to improve. How can you tweak that a little? One thing that you might be doing well, and even how can you enhance that? And you better know, if I have, this morning I walked around my school instead of going outside to car duty because I didn't want my hair to look like a full-on mess for y'all today in this humidity in Wilmington. So I walked around the school, and that's another good thing too, is when you do walkthroughs and you do walk through your building, don't let it be at the same time every day. We had a principal here years ago. She walked through her building every day. She was finished with her walkthroughs by 9 a.m. They had teachers literally leaving the campus, and she didn't know about it because they didn't see her for the rest of the day. So be at different places at different times. But I walked around with my principal is proud of me stickers this morning, and everybody who was working with children before the bell rang this morning got a sticker. That's a form of walkthrough observation. So you better know that they're going to be in their room Monday morning working with children because they think I might be walking back through with more stickers. And the ones who didn't get a sticker are saying, why'd you get a sticker? Oh boy, guess what they're going to be doing Monday morning? It really, there's lots of different ways, and you have to use a lot of different tricks because you can't be that predictable with all this. But with walkthrough observations, you can take what you get through your informal walkthrough observations, keeping track of those things in some of the ways like I just showed you some examples of. And you can then apply that to their next NECES observation. You can say on such and such a date, even though I didn't see this in this formal observation today, on such and such a date, I do have documented that I did see evidence of this. So you can make that a part of that. And you can also keep those and these as a part of that summative evaluation at the end of the year. So written feedback. I know a lot of districts have checklists that you use for written feedback, and they can be effective, and it can be a good way to do things. The one thing I don't like about that is if you had a check of 20 boxes and you check off 19 and you didn't check off the 20th, the teacher's going to perseverate on that one thing you didn't check off. What I prefer to do is sort of like how I did today with an email, where I gave one thing that I noticed, how that impacted students. I said to her, that really stuck with me when you said quad's always going to mean 4. That really stuck with me, and I bet it stuck with your children too. That one little thing about the impact that it had on student learning. This is what you did. This was good. It worked for you. It had this impact on student learning. I prefer doing it that way. I know there are other ways to do it. Yesterday, I handed out some Cheers to You cards with some information on there with feedback about things that they had done and done well. So, but you're not gonna want to do that necessarily with something you want them to improve upon. When you're wanting to give improvement feedback for growth, because it's something that really needs to stop, that needs to be that face-to-face conversation. That needs to have that seriousness of, hey, I want to really be able to explain to you in a conversation what I'm looking for. And that gives the person time to question and clarify what is it you're looking for, because they're probably doing the very best they know how to do. And getting an email about doing something different without really having the opportunity to check for misunderstandings may not get you the desired result that you're really wanting. You can also give verbal feedback. Just, hey, right after maybe you saw something. Hey, I saw you do that. It really worked well for you. Can you tell me how you thought about that? How you made that work? How did you make that work so effectively? Well, and then just be quiet. And the teacher will start talking. And again, sometimes they're doing something because this is what they've always done, because this is what they saw someone else do, and they've never thought through that process. They've never processed it. Giving them that time to process what they're doing and to think about it helps them think more deeply about it and helps them be able to think and develop their own growth as well. When you do these kinds of things, especially for your strongest teachers, those irreplaceable teachers that you want to make sure that you are keeping, it lets them know that you are interested in what they're doing, that you're interested in teaching and learning, that, hey, you know about teaching and learning and that it's important to you. And that's going to make it more important for them, and they're going to be more intentional with their teaching and learning as well, because they know it's important to you. And really and truly, most of the time, teachers do want to please you. I'm not going to say every time, but most of the time. You can also have walkthroughs without written feedback. I have a goal for myself, and my goal is that I'm in every classroom at least twice a day. Now, I say at least twice a day because there are going to be times that I'm going to be at a principal's meeting or something like that. So what I try to do is be in every classroom at least twice a day, so that when I am not around, it at least averages out to once a month. So, but I have to hold myself accountable, or it's going to fall by the wayside. So like, here's my calendar for the month of January. And when I have been in every classroom once, I color in the box half green. And when I've been in every class twice, I color it in all the way green. So far this week, because this is Friday and we did not have school on Monday, it was a holiday. You see, I wrote holiday on there so I wouldn't be mad at myself and forget. I've been in every class at least twice a day. On Wednesday, I put a 3X on there because I was in there 3 times every day. So what does that do? Well, first of all, it allows your teachers to have a lot of face-to-face time with you. And it also puts them a little bit more on their toes, because they know that they're going to be seeing you at unpredictable times. And all these things are important. If your teachers think you're not there, or if they think that you're not going to ever come in their room, that's very likely going to impact their performance and their attention to teaching and learning. And so sometimes these things are nuances of observations and evaluations, but all these things have to work together to come together for the good of the children, which is what we're here for. The other thing I wanted to talk about was cross grade level subject area walkthroughs. I will oftentimes, if we use Foundations as our phonics program here, I will take the first grade Foundations book and I will go from room to room to room to room with the lesson that they're on for that day. And I'm watching, and you can find little nuances. So for instance, I had first grade giving a Foundations test one time when I had done this. And they were supposed to write on their test, the children were supposed to write in first grade the sound for what letters make the sound k. Well, the answer key and the Foundation's manual just, even though there's more than one way to write that, the answer key only required one way. Almost every first grade teacher just required one way. I had one first grade teacher who changed the instructions and said, write every way you know that makes the k sound. That upped the ante, that deepened the learning, that deepened the understanding, that heightened the expectation. So I didn't say anybody was right or wrong. I just shared. I did a cross grade level today. This was a nuance of something that I noticed that was different in different classrooms. Some of you did it this way, some of you did it this other way. I didn't say who did and who didn't. So each other didn't know who did and who didn't, except they knew themselves what they had done. I said, and in second grade, they have to write all the ways. So let's talk about this at the next PLC about what we can think about with it. So of course, now they all do it that way. So that was just one little growth piece that helped the whole grade level grow by doing that. Guided peer observations is something we do in our school. My teachers say that it is the very best PD they ever have. They go into other rooms. We go in looking at it through the lens of our guiding principles, and we do a pre-meeting, then we come back and we post. Of course, there's nothing negative that we're going to give anybody through peer observations, because that's certainly not a peer's job to have to do that. But we are learn a lot. That has helped with vertical alignment in our building more than anything has ever helped. Todd Whitaker says we want all of our teachers to be like our best teachers. And if they don't ever see the best teachers, they're not going to know how to be better than what they are right now. Todd Whitaker also says you can't be great from average people, because average people aren't great. So you have to expose yourself to greatness to be able to up your own level of greatness as well. So those are just different ways to be able to give quality feedback, and regardless of whether it's NECES or through walkthrough observations, so that we can help grow our teachers and grow our students. All right, we're going to go on to slide number 9, which are just a few skillful observation tips from Mike Rutherford. So, back to, I think, not, go back one if you can. Yep, there you go. Stay on your feet. Stay on your feet. Be engaged. Look at what's going on. Don't be huddled back in a corner. You're going to miss 99% of what's going on in the room. Mike Rutherford says, when you first go in, just take in the room, take in the environment before you start focusing on the details. Maintain that focus and intensity. Work hard in front of your teachers. If you want your teachers to work hard, then you need to be modeling that hard work for your teachers. So maintain that focus and intensity. Don't just be sitting back there drinking coffee and whatever. Maintain it. Let them know this is a business, this is a job, this is work. Work hard. Let them know you're working harder than them. And this is a part of your work. To evaluate them, to observe them, to give them growth feedback, so that what they do for the children helps the children. Observe from the big picture and from the details. See the big things that are going on, and then look at the little things that are going on. This is a true story from this morning. Now, Dr. Lamb, you're going to like this, because this teacher gave the directions one time. Go sit down and get out your whiteboards and start writing the letters that I'm calling out. Right? She gave it one time, kindergarten. When I walked in, it had been long enough for 4 letters to have been called out, because all the children had 4 letters on their board, except for one child who didn't have the whiteboard out at all. So I said, where's your whiteboard? Of course, the teacher's mortified at this point, but okay. But the child didn't have a whiteboard out, and she hadn't noticed. The child needed his whiteboard out. That is important. I'm going to tell you another detail, and this has had a really big impact in our school, is go when the children are on the carpet or at their desk or whatever, and sit next to a child. Can you see the board? Is the teacher blocking your view? Can you see the charts that the teachers are pointing out? Are they so far across the room that you'd have to have eagle eyes to be able to see it? Can the children see what they're supposed to be seeing? If you don't do anything else today, do that. You will be amazed. Sit at the child's eye level, sit next to a child and see if you can see. Look ahead and behind the action. So if a teacher's monitoring between groups, go to a group that the teacher hasn't been to yet, see what they're doing. And then when the teacher leaves a group, go to that group and see if they're doing what she has asked them to do and how that's going. It's important for us to increase our number of observations and touches. When researchers ask teachers how much their administrators are in the classrooms, they answer in the number of touches, not in the number of minutes. So the greater frequency that you're in there, if you're in there for 1 minute, 5 times a week, they're going to see that as more than if you were in there for an hour, 1 time a week. So think about that, the number of touches, the amount of time they see you. It also cuts down on your emails because they know they're going to see you. So they know they can say something to you if they need to. So that helps as well. Just another little nuance there. Number 10, slide number 10. When we first, the summer of 2020, we went into COVID and everybody was giving all this PD on Zoom. So I watched a Zoom PD from Todd Whitaker that summer. And he talked about 5 things that help praise work. Well, those are the 5 things that Todd Whitaker said help praise work. I adapted it. I took the liberty to adapt it to 5 things that help feedback, effective feedback work. It has to be true. If it was not good and you tell someone it's good, they know that that's not true. They know it wasn't good. It has to be specific. Try harder is not specific. I was already trying as hard as I could. It has to be actionable. Closer to, this gets back, the closer to praise, the feedback, that gets back to being able to give the feedback, the NECES evaluation, not 10 days. Don't lose that 24 to 48 hour period of time. If you lose that window of opportunity, you have lost it. Keep it clean. And we're going to talk about this in a pitfall in just a second, but don't attach it to anything else. Don't say you did this really, really, really good. Oh, you might want to do this a little better. Oh, and you did this really, really good. Because now what you lost in the middle was it was negated. If you wanted someone to change something and improve on something, it's negated at that point because you've lost it. And especially if it's growth-oriented feedback, something that needs to improve, that needs to be private. Keep it between you and the person. Don't tell the whole world about, can you believe what Miss such and such did? And I had to tell her she didn't even know how to do this. Keep it to yourself. Keep it private. Be respectful. The biggest determinant of feedback is how we feel about ourselves. If I demoralize you and make you feel like you're the worst teacher in the world, you're not going to have much effort to be able to move on to do anything better. The better you feel about yourself. But if I say, hey, you know, I like, you had a good idea. You had a good start there. And let's talk about how maybe that could be enhanced. But the more you can be supportive, be coaching, and not make people really feel down on themselves, but that you can give them that specific thing, that one little thing that they can try or that they can do, or give them the time to process so that they can process through how I can do this better. That will help them change their practice. And that's the purpose of your feedback, is to help them change their practice. All right, Dr. Lamb, we're going to go to our pitfalls. The sandwich feedback, which we just talked about. Don't let things get lost in the middle. Choose something, whatever it is that you're needing for them to improve on, and be clear about it. And have that conversation with them. Yes, it can be documented in a walkthrough. Yes, it can be documented in NECES. And maybe it should be documented in NECES. We all document things in NECES every year. That has to be, and that should be. But don't let the message get lost because you're uncomfortable having to tell them something they need to improve upon. This is your job. You're supposed to be the expert in the building. Let them know, hey, this is something that you need to improve. This is how you can do it. Don't just say try harder. Be specific in that feedback so that they can go back. And guess what? I'm going to give you about a week to work on that, and then I'm going to come back, and this is when I'm coming back, and I can't wait to see how you're doing with that. So go back, let them know, hey, I'm going to come back and I'm going to look for that. So they now know the expectation. Be explicit with those expectations. What's it going to look like in practice? What is the change? Having that conversation gives them the chance to ask for any misunderstandings or anything. And then keep a record of those suggestions that you've made, and then of the progress that the person has made towards those suggestions and changing in their practice. Don't confuse classroom management for instruction. Dr. Lamb is so right about this. Sometimes we get in there, we're touching our nose, we're touching our ears, we're doing all this different stuff and moving our arms and doing it. That's not instruction. We are just sitting in there filling time at that point. We're entertaining. We need to be, we don't have much time every day, so we need to maximize all the time we have for instruction. And then the transitions, time and timing for transitions. So I alluded to this a few minutes ago, but sometimes teachers will stand up there and they'll give the instructions 85 times and no one still hasn't done it, because we have conditioned our children that they don't have to listen the first time, because we're going to say it and we're going to say it and we're going to say it and we're going to say it. And nothing gets on my nerves worse as a learner than for somebody to say, okay, I want you to go do X, Y, and Z. Okay, go do it. But then they keep on repeating it and they keep on repeating it. Now I can't focus and start on what you told me to do because you're interrupting me because you won't be quiet. So then when we lose all this time in transitions because we continue to repeat ourselves and go on and on and on and on, now we're back to having to go back to our classroom management tricks because we've lost the management of our classroom. So now we're back to touching our ears and touching our noses and flicking on and off lights and doing everything else. Another way that they can help with those transitions or expectations, of course, is to have that visually in a place for students, and to ensure that the first time you do it, you're not just saying something out of just to say it, but that you're being very clear and explicit in what you are trying to say. And then just as a quick conclusion, because of course I'm always going over, is schedule those formal and informal observations every day. Increase those number of touches, be that visible administrator, provide that timely, meaningful feedback. Pick that one thing, good, bad, or ugly. Pick that one thing. Let them walk away with a clear understanding of one thing that they did well, and this is how they can do it even better, or one thing that they really need to stop doing today, and you're coming back tomorrow to make sure they're not still doing that. Follow up on that feedback, avoid the pitfalls, and work on this one way, back to the research at the beginning. Increase your principal effectiveness in your areas of observations and feedback. Let the growth in skillful observations and feedback be that one thing that puts you in that top echelon of administrators as measured by collective teacher efficacy and student achievement. Thank you all for today. Sorry I went over 7 minutes. Of course I did. Thank you, Dr. Lamb and Dr. Kennedy, for this opportunity to talk
Thank
about what
you.
I love more than anything in the world, if you can't tell.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Is there comment or question from the group? Because I have lots of questions, but this is their time. So there were some things that I just wanted to ask about you for best practice, but I want to give them. Go ahead. Summer.
So you said that you were going into classes at least twice a day. So that's 10 times a week. About what percentage of that do you actually give feedback of the informal times that you go through?
That's a great question. I try to make sure every teacher has 3 to 4 pieces of feedback a month.
Okay.
So a lot of times I don't. I mean, you know, mostly it's just, I told Dr. Lamb yesterday too, I got really tickled. And every morning on the announcements, I say, boys and girls, it's your job is to be here to learn. Now the adults are here to help you. So if you have any questions, you ask an adult. So yesterday I walked in a kindergarten classroom and the little girl walks up and she says, hey, Dr. Hamilton, here's what you can help me with. I said, okay.
That's a great question. And I will tell you, so I think Dr. Lamb may know this, but Dr. Hamilton, I spent 22 years as a high school teacher and a high school and middle school administrator, and then I went to elementary school. And how you how you deal with teachers at each level is so different.
Mhm.
And so, the joke is always that teachers are like their kids. So elementary teachers need that touch. They need that, kind of to Sumner's question about how often are you giving feedback? Well, you came in my room and you didn't say anything about what you saw. Middle and high school teachers, no news is good news. So they don't mind you being in there, but, and that was a transition I had to make. And I say that because some of the folks in our room here are working in different levels, like Brooke has been a high school person, is now in elementary school. Those are some transitions that you have to make in dealing with teachers. That our elementary teachers need to be loved and hugged and told they're wonderful, and our secondary teachers, they just want to hear if there's a problem. Otherwise, they're going to assume that everything's a thumbs up. And so these are adjustments that you'll have to make with that. Dr. Hamilton, the question I had for you is when you're doing, particularly when you're doing a formal observation, are you scripting and timing?
Mm-hmm. I do. And I know I might be dating myself again. But I script everything, and that was the way I was trained. And then the superintendent that we had for 10 years until a few years ago, he would literally come into your office and say, I want to see your scripting. And he would do that to all of us. And so I guess just from those habits, that is what I still do. I know our new HR people think that's antiquated, but maybe I'm too old now to change my ways. But yeah, I do script and I time it. Yes, I do. But I want to go back to your other comment. So I was a middle school teacher. So, and I did teach in elementary for 2 years, but I was a middle school teacher. So maybe that's why I think going in and no news is good news is fine with me. But again, I've been here 16 years. Most of my staff has been here that whole time. So they know I'm just going to be walking through their room. So a lot of that is just longevity.
Yeah, it was just a transition for me of things we had to learn. I think about the folks in the room who are working in different levels. The reason I was asking about the scripting is one of the things that you will learn when you start thinking about, and again, dating ourselves, those of us that used to evaluate teachers on the old TPAI, but there were some things in there that were pretty good that have kind of gotten lost in NESIS. But one of the things is if you'll script sometimes, you'll see just how much time is spent in transition and in giving instruction and to that point of how many times you're doing that, or you call a transition, but then that transition drags out 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and you realize how much time is lost in that. And the other thing that I wanted to share with the group that was very on point with what you had there, but just saying the same thing in a different way. Don't confuse management and instruction was what Dr. Hamilton said. I've always said, don't confuse activity and engagement. Just because kids are doing doesn't mean kids are learning.
That's right.
And so, that is a management thing. A lot of times they are doing, and the things that you was talking about for our secondary folks that you don't know, you might pat your head and rub your ears and, 1, 2, 3 eyes on me and all the mnemonics that to get things back on task. But even walking in, and one of the things that we did as a school that was very powerful, and Todd Whitaker is one of my edu heroes, Dr. Hamilton. So I got to see him and Mike Rutherford at the in Pinehurst. Well, Cromwell was there too. So yeah, both of those things, and I got to talk to Mike Rutherford for a long time, and Todd Whitaker I've been and talked to dozens of times. He's fabulous, with a dozen or so times. But anyway, I say that to say, just that whole concept of not confusing those things of that activity versus engagement. And as we started modeling for our teachers to have teachers get out and see what other teachers do, we had a hard time when I was an elementary principal of our teachers feeling that other teachers were sitting in judgment of them. So how we overcame that was we had our teachers go in, exactly to your point, Dr. Hamilton, and pick a kid and experience the class from the kid's perspective. Talk to the kid. Does the kid, you know, kind of to your thing about the kid didn't have his whiteboard out. Does the kid understand the task? Does the kid understand what's going on? Because one of the things that was in TPAI that's not in NESIS is that checking for understanding piece. And so, you know, having that conversation with the kid, what the teacher may be doing all the things that look great, but if the babies aren't getting it, the instruction's not effective. So I just, you know, putting yourself in a classroom observation in the place of a student in the classroom it can be powerful to help provide that feedback. What other questions do you have for Dr. Hamilton or Dr. Land?
Don't ask me. I'm by far the least capable person in this group.
That's not true.
Instructionally.
That's not true.
I went through, Dr. Kennedy, to your point, we're doing a special one-off deal with Gaston County Schools where we're training 14 of their folks to be administrators at this spring. It's an initiative between the college and the town. And so one of the things that we did with them this past fall, we put them not only through our 604 curriculum class, we did Gaston County's NESIS training with them. So we did a double class every Thursday. And so I went through NESIS training with them this past fall, just got through last month. And to your point, there's a lot of things from EdTP, you know, from TPAI that didn't make the transition that I think are still important. And you hit the one on the head, and Dr. Hamilton's grinning because this is one I rant about all the time, is time lost in transition and time on task and scripting and timing and knowing, again, activity without engagement. You get into this cycle of giving the directions a dozen times, kids not getting on task, and then you got to go back to the classroom management tricks. That's it for me. Is what are we really doing? I only know two things about school. I've been in it for 45 years. I only know two things. If teachers and kids are in the room together and they're engaged, you got a chance. I know the corollary to that. If they're in the room together, if the teachers are missing or the kids are missing, or if they're not engaged, you got no shot. Got no chance whatsoever. That goes back to the old EdTPA. Sometimes it's good to be old. Not many times, but a few times.
So if you've been doing it 45 years, you started when you were 7? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah. Right after I quit smoking, I started school at 7. Yeah, this is my 45th year. And so, yeah, this is, I've been at it a day or two. That doesn't mean anything though. It's not, it's talent, not time. And that's the thing that I want to say in conclusion, and thank you for the setup there. I tell folks all the time, it's not about time, it's about talent. That you've been at this a day or a week or 4 days or 2 weeks or 1 year, doesn't matter. It's not about time, it's about talent. And that's what gets it done. That's what kids deserve. That's what schools need, is talented people, regardless of the time. And your job is to make teachers better. You know, Colin's good to great, get the right people on the bus. What if there aren't the right people? Then you got to grow them into the right people. That's your job, is to grow these people, these teachers, into the teachers that you need for kids to have. I'll go back and finish up as I always do. What do they do at Jones Sausage? They make sausage. What do we do? What do we do in public school? We teach kids. That is our core competence. That is the most important thing that we do. It is the thing that I appreciate the time today. I'm always glad to get out of the house and get to do something besides sit around. So I'm thankful to get to be here, and we appreciate the opportunity to come. Thank you.
Well, good deal. Thank you, Dr. Lamb. Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Pleasure to
Thank
meet you.
you.
Please come visit us in Thomasville anytime. Come to Davidson County and get some barbecue, and we'll do that.
Now, I told you I'm from Cleveland County, so watch the barbecue comments there.
Well, no, you if you're on the correct side of the line, if you grew up in Cleveland County and come to Davidson County, you'll get the kind of barbecue you're used to, not what you would get in Hanover County. Because I'm from Eastern North Carolina, and so I've learned to adapt to both. I say it like this, some people like filet mignon and some people like hamburger. You don't have to pick one or the both. You can have them both because they both come from the same place. So
That's right.
Exactly right. So
again, we thank you all so much. And do you guys have any questions for them while we're here? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck to you
Thank you so
all.
much.
we'll see you again on February the 10th at 10 a.m. with Dr. Jill Payne. So thank
All right.
you.
Good deal. Good deal. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Happy
Your
New
day.
Year.